Coming up on Arirang News. South Korea launched its first home-developed nano-satellite into orbit this morning, which made successful communication with ground stations. As part of efforts to create a satellite constellation, it'll help the country more quickly respond to natural disasters and security threats. South Korea's population crisis worsens, with the number of babies born in February the smallest ever recorded for that month. The number of deaths exceeded the number of births, leading to a greater natural decrease in the population. North Korea sent its highest-level delegation to Iran in a rare public trip. No other details were provided, but they're likely to discuss missiles and nuclear weapons, raising concerns of military cooperation. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We start with South Korea launching its first homegrown Earth observation nano-satellite. Launched this morning from New Zealand, it has made successful contact with the ground stations here in the country. It'll help South Korea more quickly respond to natural disasters and security threats. Our Kim Bo-kyung leads us off.
South Korea's homegrown Earth observation nano-satellite launched into orbit Wednesday morning made first contact with the ground station in Daejeon at around 11:57 a.m. According to data sent to the Korea Aerospace Research Institution, nano-satellite solar panels were deployed successfully. Two-way communication was then established at around 2:13 p.m. and 3:44 p.m. with the King Sejong Station in Antarctica, confirming that the launch was successful. The Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, or KAIST, is expected to test the satellite body and optical payload's performance for a month and examine the quality of the observation images for 5 months. If all is considered fine, the nano-satellite will start its Earth observation mission this November. This satellite, developed by the Satellite Technology Research Center at KAIST, was launched from Rocket Lab's spaceport in New Zealand on Wednesday morning at around 7:32 a.m. Korea time. It was attached to Rocket Lab's lightweight electron orbital rocket, along with an advanced composite solar sail system created by the U.S. National Aeronautics and Space Administration. The launch was supposed to take place at 7:08 a.m., but after some delays, eventually went ahead at around 7:32 a.m. 50 minutes later, the satellite reached space at an altitude of 520 kilometers. nano-satellite is just the start of South Korea's beginning of the Swarm mission, which aims to establish a satellite constellation network by 2027, with 10 more satellites using the homegrown Nuri space rocket. Afterward, a total of 11 satellites will capture optical images with a resolution of about 1 meter from an altitude of 500 kilometers for around 3 years. The Science Ministry says that through this satellite cluster, not only will the country be able to quickly respond to natural disasters and security threats, but it could also reduce the cost needed to purchase satellite images from overseas. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
With just a month to go until the Korea Aerospace Administration's official takeoff, the top office on Wednesday announced key appointments. Seoul National University Professor Yoon Young-bin has been named as its first ever chief. The top office says Professor Yoon has been leading figure of rocket research in South Korea, and his gentle and compassionate leadership will help with the successful launch of KASA. The Deputy Administrator of Missions in charge of R&D will be a Korean-American John Lee, who most recently served as a senior executive at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. KASA has opened the doors for 2 foreign nationals, except for the top administrator role, to bring in talent from countries that are ahead in the space industry. Amid the standoff between the government and the doctors, medical professors who also serve as senior doctors at major hospitals announced a weekly day off from work. Also, resignations submitted by medical professors a month ago are set to take effect this Thursday. Choi Soo-hyung has the latest.
4 medical professors from Seoul National University announced on Wednesday they will leave their positions completely as of May 1st. On Tuesday, professors from leading hospitals nationwide decided to halt all outpatient services and surgeries 1 day a week due to fatigue resulting from the prolonged junior doctors' walkout. So far, the majority of the medical professors from Seoul National University and Worsens University said they will bring this in from April 30th and May 3rd, respectively. The South Korean government stated its determination once again to complete its healthcare reforms and expressed regrets over the professors' decision.
Medical school professors, please join us in dialogue rather than collective action. The government is committed to addressing concerns without adding to the cost in healthcare.
Trainee doctors have been calling for the government to completely withdraw its plan to expand the annual medical school admission quota by 2,000 places. Since March 25th, professors have submitted their resignations in support of the resident doctors' protest against the government's plan. With medical professors' resignations set to take effect this Thursday, patients' anxiety is escalating. Emergency and severe care services are not expected to be affected. However, the Korea Alliance of Patients Organization urged on Monday the professors to stay in their hospitals and not walk out. To alleviate patients' concerns, the Health Ministry announced on Wednesday that, under the government's emergency response system, the number of cooperating hospitals for cancer patients will be expanded from the existing 47 to 68. The ministry added that the government proposed social consultation to address the healthcare reform will be launched on Thursday. It will have around 26 members, including health ministry officials, doctors' groups, nurses, pharmacists, and patients. However, the Korean Medical Association, the largest doctors' group, and the Korean Intern Residents Association have declared that they won't participate. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
South Korea's population crisis worsens with the number of babies born in February, the smallest ever recorded for that month. The number of deaths exceeded the number of births, leading to a greater natural decrease in the population. Our Park Gun-woo has the details.
South Korea's population shrank again in February. According to preliminary data released by Statistics Korea on Wednesday, the number of births dropped 3.3% on year, with just over 19,300 babies born. That's the lowest figure for any February since related data was first compiled in 1981.
The financial burdens, such as housing costs, are one of the reasons for low birth figures. And changes in people's perception nowadays that it isn't a must to get married and have kids is another reason.
While saying it would not be realistic to expect birth rates to rise again immediately through governmental policies, one expert said changing people's values and perceptions is much more important.
Instead of encouraging people to have children, it might be better to come up with policies that allow people to know that society is able to support people with different thoughts and different types of families, such as an unmarried woman having a child.
Also in February, the number of deaths jumped by 9.6% on year to nearly 30,000. According to Statistics Korea, the country's aging population pushed up the number of deaths for people aged 85 and above, while data was also affected by the extra day in February, with 2024 being a leap year. With more deaths than births, South Korea recorded a natural population decline of more than 10,000. That means 52 straight months of natural population decline. Also in February, the number of registered marriages stayed just under 17,000, down 5% compared to the year before. Statistics Korea said that fewer workdays that month due to Lunar New Year celebrations meant fewer opportunities for couples to register marriages. However, the agency said the total number of marriages for January and February did see an on-year increase of 3.3%. 7,300 divorces were recorded in February, up 1.8% from the year before. Park Gun-woo, Arirang News.
In other news, more than half of those employed last year had a college degree. According to Statistics Korea on Wednesday, this is a record high, with 50.5% boasting at least a 2-year college certificate. This ratio has been on the rise since 2003, when it stood at slightly over 30%. Also, findings show most college degree holders were employed at large companies as compared to their smaller counterparts. The government is planning to slash import tariffs on certain items to combat high consumer prices. During a meeting headed by Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok on Wednesday, related ministries announced that tariff rate quotas will be applied to 5 agricultural products, namely cabbage, napa cabbage, carrots, grapes, and dried seaweed. This comes after the government earlier this month decided to extend fuel tax cuts through June, as growing tensions in the Middle East are expected to lead to further price hikes. As for processed food, 2 more items, cocoa beans and seasoned seaweed, will also have their import tariffs reduced. North Korea sent its highest-level delegation to Iran in a rare public trip. No other details were provided, but they're likely to discuss missiles and nuclear weapons, raising concerns of military cooperation. Our North Korean affairs correspondent Kim Jung-sil has more.
An extremely unusual announcement even for North Korea came on Wednesday morning. The regime's official newspaper, the Rodong-sinmun, said the External Economic Relations Minister Yoon Jong-ho and his delegation had left Pyongyang on Tuesday to visit Iran. The purpose or details of the visit have not been revealed.
I think the North's delegation must have a lot of issues to discuss. They will likely discuss missiles, nuclear weapons, and what to do when the U.S. is pressuring Iran, China, as well as North Korea, and how to work together in these circumstances.
Exchanges between scientists from the North and Iran have been consistent. And although they have never admitted it, it is widely believed that North Korea and Iran have been working on missile development since the 1980s. There's even speculation that the Iranian missiles fired at Israel on April 13th may have included North Korean components or technologies. Experts said with tensions rising, South Korea should take a wiser stance to global and regional security.
I hope the government will benchmark the diplomatic strategies of Japan and Saudi Arabia. For instance, Japan appears it's not that close with China and is a key member of America's East Asia-Pacific strategy, but Japan somehow manages a neutral relationship with China and with Iran as well. This is because Japan doesn't stir the relations firsthand amid closely cooperating with the U.S.
Experts added the alliances in the international communities now are driven by countries' respective national interests, and said they hope South Korea will take a calmer approach and make diplomatic decisions more wisely. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken began his 3-day trip to China on Wednesday to make sure Washington-Beijing ties stay on track. He arrived in Shanghai to embark on his 2nd trip to the country as Washington's top diplomat, his first since last June. Blinken is slated to have talks with senior Chinese officials in both Shanghai and Beijing, including with top Chinese diplomat Wang Yi. Key issues such as Washington's concerns regarding China's support for Russia's defense industrial base, its provocations in the South China Sea, and stability issues across the Taiwan Strait are likely to be discussed. A long-delayed foreign aid package passed the U.S. Congress, with President Biden set to sign the bill into law. Ukraine could be receiving additional weapons as early as this week. Choi Min-jung with the details.
The U.S. Congress passed a sweeping foreign aid package on Tuesday, most of which will be allocated to help Ukraine in the war against Russia. After the House of Representatives gave the green light over the weekend, the Senate passed a package worth $95 billion for Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, and U.S. allies in the Indo-Pacific. The legislation will allocate $61 billion to Ukraine, $26 billion to Israel, and around $8 billion to counter China in the Indo-Pacific.
This national security bill is one of the most important measures Congress has passed in a very long time to to protect America's security and the security of Western democracy.
U.S. President Joe Biden is set to sign the bill into law on Wednesday so that Washington can begin sending weapons and equipment to Ukraine this week.
To our friends in Ukraine, America will soon deliver more ammunition and air defenses and basic supplies you need to resist Putin on the battlefield.
According to U.S. officials, the larger-than-normal military aid package for Ukraine will also include armored vehicles, potentially additional Bradley fighting vehicles. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky praised Tuesday's passing and stated that it underscores Washington's support for Kyiv. It comes after months of delays, and experts say it could be the last one for Ukraine until after the U.S. presidential election in November. Congress also passed a potential TikTok ban in the U.S. Chinese parent company ByteDance would roughly have 9 months to sell TikTok, or the app would be banned nationwide in the U.S. Lawmakers have long expressed concerns that Chinese authorities could force ByteDance to hand over data on millions of Americans who use TikTok. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
In the Middle East, Israel's military offensive against Hamas in northern Gaza appears to have resumed after a halt of some 4 months. Lee Seung-jae reports.
The Israeli military carried out its most powerful airstrikes in weeks across Gaza Strip on Tuesday. According to Reuters, Israeli soldiers ordered residents to evacuate, telling civilians that they were in a dangerous combat zone. Residents in the region also said that there had been non-stop bombardments by Israeli tanks and fighter jets. This comes as the Israeli military last week began moving tanks into Beit Hanun on the northeast edge of the Gaza Strip. It's also been nearly 4 months since Israel halted its offensive in the northern enclave after claiming that Hamas had lost control of the region. Despite the Israeli military withdrawing most of its troops from southern Gaza earlier this month, leaving behind only 1 brigade, airstrikes and ground offensives were also reported in central and southern regions of the Gaza Strip. Hamas has reorganized its battle lines and restarted its resistance against Israeli forces, firing rockets toward southern Israel. In a video message aired on Al Jazeera to mark the 200th day of the war, a spokesman for Hamas said that Israel had suffered nothing but humiliation and defeat and urged an escalation of the war on all fronts. The Israeli military, on the other hand, slammed the Palestinian militant group for targeting Israeli civilians, while emphasizing that its military follows international law and takes feasible precautions to mitigate civilian harm. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
South Korean firms, both large and small, discussed ways to effectively increase renewable energy use at the ReWorld Forum 2024. The ReWorld Forum, hosted by the nonprofit SDX Foundation, kicked off on Wednesday, where strategies to meet CBAM and RE100 requirements were discussed during several of the sessions. CBAM is an EU policy aimed at imposing a price on imports based on their carbon emissions during the production, while the RE100 is a global initiative that encourages businesses to commit to using 100% renewable energy. The forum, attended by experts from the private and academic sectors, also focused on challenges that companies face in their path to carbon neutrality, as well as possible solutions. Members of the media from a dozen African countries are here in Korea to witness firsthand Korea's advances in agricultural technology. The gathering comes ahead of Korea's summit with its African counterpart this summer. Our business correspondent Lee Soo-jin reports.
Another step is being taken to bring South Korea and African nations closer together. Ahead of the first ever Korea-Africa Summit, which will be held on June 4th and 5th in Seoul, journalists from 12 African countries were invited to visit South Korea for a week to learn about the various areas of cooperation. These include infrastructure projects such as building and upgrading railway networks, as well as agriculture development.
The visit presents an opportunity for us to tap into the Korean agriculture sector, tap in knowledge, obviously Korea being more advanced.
The journalists attended a workshop and press conference to learn more about South Korea's official development assistance projects in the agricultural field. The Rural Development Administration currently operates both bilateral projects through KOPIA, the Korea Partnership for Innovation of Agriculture, and multilateral projects through KASA, the Korea-Africa Food and Agriculture Cooperation Initiative, to share and develop localized agriculture technology. These projects have been largely successful, with rice production in Ghana reaching 970,000 metric tons in 2020 compared to 460,000 metric tons in 2011. And the Rural Development Administration also officially launched the K-Rice Belt Initiative with the Agriculture Ministry as an extension of these ODA projects.
Our goal is to supply food to over 30 million people by helping the 7 African nations become capable of producing 10,000 metric tons of high-quality seeds.
A government official from the Gambia says that they have made achieving this goal their top priority.
We eat rice 2 times minimum every day. The seed that we are getting now is high yielding, and then there is also plans to come up with technology, which is equipment to mechanize the process.
As well as improving yields, South Korea and African nations are working together to develop seeds resilient to droughts. Both sides focus on developing agriculture technology that are both sustainable and suitable for the climate in Africa. The upcoming summit is expected to lay the foundations for further collaboration. 이수진, Arirang News.
Cloudy and rainy weather has continued throughout the country today. After the rain stops, clear skies will make a return across the country from tomorrow. Temperatures will continue to rise from this point. On Friday, the daytime temperature will exceed 25 degrees Celsius in most regions. Then highs in Seoul will rise to nearly 30 degrees this weekend, making it feel like early summer. Today, high waves flowed in around the east coast and the coastlines of Jeju Island. Please take extra precautions for safety accidents. Tomorrow, most areas will have sunny and clear conditions. Seoul, Daejeon, Gwangju, and Daegu will start off at 11 degrees Celsius. Highs will move up to over 20 nationwide. Daegu and Gyeongju will rise as high as 27 degrees during the daytime. There's rain forecast for Jeju Island on Friday and Saturday. Elsewhere, sunny weather will continue for the time being. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Well, that is all for this newscast tonight. Thank you for watching. Good night and take care.